Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me in the record room today. If you're new here, my name is Doug. This will be a tribute post to a true icon of reggae music who left us this week, suddenly, unexpectedly, to fly home to Zion. Passed away April 12th, 2023. Was still very active musically, had released some new productions not that long ago after a long quiet period, had tour dates planned for later this year. I'm speaking of a man whose name is known far beyond the borders of the country in which he resided, England, to the four corners of the globe, wherever reggae music is known and played. His name spoken with reverence as a paradigm, as the high water mark, the barometer against which all others in his field are measured. I'm speaking of the man called To Jah Shaka. His true name, closely guarded by his circle of confidants. I've seen it, can't recall it off the top of my head, yet it matters little, as he preferred the focus to be on the music and the message it carried, rather than on himself personally. He remained humble, private, soft-spoken, yet eloquent, and with an unswerving devotion to his mission as he saw it, to uplift, educate, and inform his audience. He was a musician, band leader, songwriter, record producer, record label owner, yet it is as sound system operator that his legend truly resides. He was born in Clarendon, Jamaica, emigrated to the UK in 1956 as part of the so-called Windrush generation. After the Windrush, the passenger ship that would carry this first wave of Caribbean immigrants to the UK, they were seeking better lives, better opportunities, yet once there faced harsher climate than what they were used to, economic uncertainty, an unfamiliar culture, and moreover, a culture of systemic discrimination, racism, open hostility. For solace and support, they would band together in communities with their shared love of music from home. There would be the house party phenomenon, where a few dozen people might gather to listen and enjoy records from home. This would soon grow into the sound system culture, which had originated in Jamaica and would quickly be transplanted to the UK as well. As a teenager, To Jah Shaka would get involved in this sound system culture with a small sound called Freddie Cloudburst, where his job would initially be to polish up the speakers and the equipment, make it look presentable. He would graduate to starting to maintain the equipment, along the way gathering grassroots from the bottom up grasp of what it took to build and maintain these systems with their speakers and amplifiers. By the late 1960s, he had begun to gather gear for his own system. He had also been informed by the works of Black American activists such as Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Angela Davis, and others, and had discovered the Rastafari faith, which would guide and sustain him for the rest of his life, one to which he had an unswerving devotion. The Jah Shaka sound system, named after Shaka Zulu, the great Zulu king who had resisted the British in South Africa, would start around 1968, 1969. Unusually, Shaka would operate the system primarily all by himself, with no division of labor between the man playing the records, the man talking on the microphone. He would do it all himself, playing the records, adjusting the treble and the bass and the controls, and chatting on the microphone as the spirit moved him, as the vibes were flowing in the dance. From the first, he conceived of his sound as having a greater purpose rather than simply entertaining a crowd. That was part of it, but he also wanted to move, educate, and inspire his audiences. He would play only records that matched his standards, his criteria, with a preference for roots and culture material, and he would soon build up a strong following through the 1970s of crowds following his dances, which would become something of a physical experience where the volume, the pounding bass and drums would hit you within your body, would inspire the crowds to move to almost spiritual heights. Attending a Shaka dance became something of a religious experience, with the pounding, repetitive bass and drums of the steppers rhythms that he preferred. By the late 1970s, he built up a peerless arsenal of dub plates. He would play both commercially released tunes and, as the evening went on, gravitate to the dub plates, the exclusive tunes cut only for use on his sound system, and was known for the quality of his selections. By 1980, he would launch his own record label, gravitating to making his own music with his band, the Fasimbas. His first release, reportedly Ja Children Cry by African Princess, which can be found on this compilation LP, Hits from the House of Shaka, appearing on his own record label that he had founded, Jah Shaka Music. With its iconic Zulu warrior design, Jah Shaka. His music would only appear on his own label. His first LP release in 1982 would be Commandments of Dub Volume 1. Shaka, known very much for his dubs, with the pounding bass and drums of the steppers rhythms, to which he would apply siren effects, known for his dub sirens, which would be run through a delay unit. Also his adding of sin drums, creating an unsettling, vibrating experience. Commandments of Dub Volume 1 would run to 10 volumes through the 1980s. In 1980, 1981-ish, he would appear in the film called Babylon, playing himself. The movie was a very accurate depiction of sound system culture in London in the late 1970s, early 1980s, and would star lead singer of Aswad, Brinsley Ford, as leader of a sound system called Ital Lion, going into a pivotal sound clash where Jah Shaka, playing himself, was their opponent, and Shaka would appear simulating what he would have done in a real dance, a very realistic portrayal. I may include some footage of that. Shaka would continue to release productions on his own label through the 1980s, working with the cream of the crop of UK-based reggae musicians. Fly Me Away Home by Junior Brown, appearing in the early 1980s. Again, as always, on the Jah Shaka label, different variations. Shaka would also release his own vocal and dub LPs, such as King's Music, all of these early to mid 1980s. Message from Africa, the Shaka All-Stars. Revelation songs, To Jah Shaka, the man himself there, feeling the vibes. Includes his great Revelation 18. To Jah Shaka, the music message. He would also collaborate with many of the heavyweights of the UK music scene, doing a joint dub album with Aswad. There were also 2 dub albums with his good friend Mad Professor, whom he would work with frequently. Forgot to pull those. They're in the shelves over there. Mad Professor and To Jah Shaka, New Decade of Dub, meeting up at Ariwa Studios, with Shaka taking one side of the LP and Mad Professor taking the other. Something of a clash between the two friends. But by the 1980s, the sound had changed. Dance hall was the thing, and the roots and culture that Shaka had championed through the 1970s and into the early 1980s had begun to fall out of favor. Other sound systems would adopt the dance hall sounds coming from Jamaica, as well as the local British-made dance hall reggae, yet Shaka refused to deviate from the roots reggae, feeling it was his mission to maintain the standards of his sound, to inform, educate, and uplift the people coming to his dances. Attendance would dwindle through the decade, but by the late 1980s, things had begun to turn around once again as a new generation of fans began to come to his dances once again, a multiracial crowd finding unity and common purpose in those sort of steppers rhythms, and a new generation of UK roots and dub was born, a new scene. Many of the musicians and sound system operators that were attending Shaka dances in this time would go on to great careers of their own, such as producers like Jah Warrior, sounds like Iration Steppas, and Abashanti I, all still very active today, got their start following Shaka. To them, he was the gold standard, the icon, the template, and his legend would continue to grow over the years. Even the songs he would play in his dances would become legendary. You can go on the internet and find tapes digitized of his original dances. People to this day trying to figure out what tunes he is playing, and it became something of an in-joke as auction sites listings would say things like Shaka Killer to try and hype up their listings, make it seem like it was a truly desirable tune to try and drive prices up, whether or not the song had actually been played by Shaka or not. In the 1990s, as digital technology continued to advance, the sound would change. Shaka would adjust his productions to match. First of all, new chapter, Commandments of Dub Part 3 on CD from the original Commandments of Dub series. He would begin a new series of collaborations with veteran artists. To Jah Shaka meeting Horace Andy in 1993, the great Jamaican singer Horace Andy. This would be followed by the Dub Salute series of matching dub albums, Dub Salute 1 being dubs of that Horace Andy LP. Dub Salute 3 would be the dubs to a Willie Williams album, which I do not have at the moment. He would continue releasing his own occasional solo albums. To Jah Shaka and the Fasimbas, In the Ghetto, the highly regarded Far Eye Captain of My Ship album by Jamaican Max Romeo would be followed by Far Eye Ship dub. He would continue his productions. There would be a further wave in the 2000s, vocal and dub LPs coming from To Jah Shaka. Yet in 2000, he suffered a setback when a fire destroyed his studio, reportedly seriously injured him. He would have some time off, yet eventually make his way back to the music once he had recovered. His comeback dances rapturously attended, and he would remain intermittently active ever since. Thought I'd just show you some original Shaka dance posters somebody kindly sent me a while back. To Jah Shaka, 1991 at the Arch, Vauxhall, London, Friday, December 13th, 1991, in a King David style, as the tagline goes, the Shaka style of playing. Another one, To Jah Shaka. To Jah Shaka remains an icon, his name revered worldwide by the current generation of sound men, by reggae fans all over. I could play you samples from these records, yet my system won't do it justice. It would be something like listening to an MP3 instead of vinyl. To truly experience the To Jah Shaka sound, the Shaka system, as I never got to do, you would have to attend one of these dances. I'll try and find and include a bit of footage so you can perhaps get a sense of it, to be in that environment with the pounding sound that you could feel in every pore of your body, and the spiritual and hypnotic repetitive vibes and the chanting and the spiritual devotion of the man called To Jah Shaka. There will never be another like him. He has been paid tribute to all over the world and remains the absolute paragon as perhaps the ultimate sound man. It's been my tribute to To Jah Shaka. Thank you for watching, everybody.